The U.S. Navy says that sharing UFO footage and documents could cause grave damage to national security. Well, you know, there's a lot of people that are using their mobile phones and their cameras, their dash cams, whatever, and they're catching images of these very strange orbs or light orbs or UFOs, and they're sharing them on social media. What does that mean? That they shouldn't be doing that anymore? This is by Steve McCalmy on Collective Spark. What does this mean? Now, there is perhaps no other topic that used to be considered a conspiracy theory that's now taken extremely seriously within the mainstream, like the topic of unidentified flying object, UFOs, also sometimes referred to as unidentified aerial phenomena. That's a term used by the Department of Defense concerning, for example, the USS Nimitz UFO encounters. So this is a large part due to the fact that official declassified documents and footage have been released from a number of intelligence agencies and military organizations on a global scale, not just by the U.S. Navy. Now, furthermore, all of it's complemented by statements from high-ranking military personnel, ex-astronauts, and many more. An incident that really blew this subject open in the United States occurred in 2004, where several Navy pilots that were stationed aboard the USS Nimitz encountered a tic-tac-shaped UFO. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences (TTSA), headed by Tom DeLonge, alongside several ex-high-ranking intelligence personnel like Christopher Mellon, who served 30 years in the federal government and was Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary for Intelligence from 1997 to 2002, obtained the video from the United States Navy, which the Navy later verified was real. He has published detailed articles for outlets like The Hill and The Washington Post, emphasizing the reality and seriousness of this subject. He's one of several to do so. And here's one of the video objects. Another one, we see them here. We've seen them many times recently. In the 2004 incident was beamed by the New York Times, the high-ranking people like Luis Elizondo, who headed an aerial threat identification program. At the Pentagon, he's also part of the TTSA. He stated that he believes these objects are extraterrestrial. He also made the point to emphasize that we should not get caught up in this particular 2004 incident, as there are many. And he told Vice that people should not be surprised by the revelation that other videos exist and at greater length. More news has come out regarding the 2004 Tic Tac UFO incident with the Nimitz, and it's in response to a recent Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, that was filed for more video footage and documents regarding this incident. The footage and documents that were released of the incident don't show the entire video and don't make up all of the documents. The spokesperson from the Navy's Office of Intelligence, ONI, confirmed that the agency possesses at least one classified video pertaining to this incident. According to an ONI spokesperson, sharing the information with the public, quote, would cause exceptionally grave damage to the national security of the United States. The ONI also admitted to possessing at least one video of unknown length, classified as secret by the Naval Air System Command, NAVAIR. ONI did not reveal whether this footage is the same 1-minute video that was leaked online in 2007 and widely released by the New York Times in 2017. However, in November 2019, several naval officers who witnessed the incident aboard the Nimitz told Popular Mechanics that they had seen a much longer video of the encounter that was between 8 and 10 minutes long. These original recordings were promptly collected and erased by quote-unquote unknown individuals who arrived on the ship by helicopter shortly after the incident, one officer said. In the 2004 incident, the object in question was performing maneuvers and flying at speeds that no known aircraft on Earth can perform. Grave damage to national security, seriously. One thing that seems to rub me the wrong way about mainstream UFO disclosure is what seems to be a constant threat narrative. This is a phenomenon that dates back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Cases have been documented for a very, very long time. If there was some sort of extraterrestrial threat or a threat to national security by these objects, wouldn't some type of event have already taken place by now? Based on my research and the research of many other UFO researchers around the world, the majority of documented UFO incidents around the world have shown no sign of a threat. Sure, they may be intrusive, but these objects have not behaved in a way that has been indicative of a threat. That being said, this does not mean that footage of these objects performing in a way that represents a threat doesn't exist, but based on what we have now, 99.99% of these cases, in my opinion, do not display behavior that is all indicative of a threat. That is at all indicative of a threat. In fact, not only do these objects not display characteristics of hostility, they are documented performing predominantly evasive maneuvers, making multiple efforts to avoid our aircraft. For example, Canadian Defense Minister Paul Hellyer said that these objects commonly take corrective measures to avoid our aircraft, and that our military tends to shoot first and ask questions later. And don't forget 4-star General Nathan Twining, who stated in a declassified intelligence document decades ago that, quote, "The phenomenon is something real and not visionary or fictitious. The reported operating characteristics such as extreme rates of climb, maneuverability, particularly in a roll, and motion which must be considered evasive when sighted or contacted by friendly aircraft and radar, lend belief to the possibility that some of the objects are controlled either manually, automatically, or remotely," end quote. With all of this being said, it's understandable how, from our current level of consciousness, that these objects would be seen as a threat, especially from a military and intelligence perspective. For example, when a UFO is tracked on radar, military aircraft are usually sent out to take a closer look. There are many documented cases that show electronic systems within the military jet go down, they don't work. For example, here's an interesting case from Iran via a declassified NSA document. Quote, "As the F-4 approached a range of 25 nautical miles, it lost all instrumentation and communications. When the F-4 turned away from the object and apparently was no longer a threat to it, the aircraft regained all instrumentation and communications. Another brightly lighted object came out of the original object. The second object headed straight towards the F-4, end quote. The UFOs in close proximity to nuclear missile facilities have also been associated with a complete shutdown and deactivation of nuclear missiles, so that's interesting. Yeah, but there have also been the opposite, where they turn them on. Let's not forget that. Now, going back to the article, the issue is the threat narrative being pushed by mainstream for some sort of ulterior motive, the same way we've seen the mainstream push the war on terror? Are we being lied to again? To be honest, it's hard to believe anything that comes from mainstream media these days, and many people have lost their trust in these networks. Truth is not synonymous with mainstream media, so what makes the UFO topic any different? Are they trying to control the narrative? What's curious to me is why all of a sudden do a select group of people get to publish serious pieces on the subject in mainstream media outlets, while a number of credible people, as well as UFO researchers, have been doing this for years, yet continue to go largely ignored by the mainstream media? These are all important questions to ask. I go deeper in the article I recently published, which you can read below if you are interested. It says, do UFOs represent some sort of threat, or is this just government propaganda? The takeaway, the conclusion is this a subject that's full of truth? This is a subject that is full of truth, but also full of disinformation. At the end of the day, it's curious as to why mainstream media has control over the narrative and never addresses incidents and facts that have been uncovered by academics and researchers for decades. And why now? This is a topic that truly leaves no aspect of humanity untouched. It has large implications, especially for human consciousness. That being said, we have a lot of work to do down here on planet Earth to get our stuff together, but this topic is no doubt always interesting to explore, and can assist one in expanding their consciousness. This article, U.S. Navy says sharing UFO footage and documents could cause grave damage to national security, was originally created for collective evolution, and it's published here under Creative Commons. This is on Creative Spark. I'll leave a link below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.